A sudden blast. No bombs and no missiles, but something just as chilling. A pager. Smoke curls up from the man's waist as chaos explodes all around him. This wasn't just any attack. This was the September 17, 2024 pager explosions, an event that shook Lebanon and parts of Syria to their core. Thousands of pagers rigged to explode went off simultaneously, killing many, injuring thousands, and changing Hezbollah forever. The use of pagers as a communication tool in Hezbollah was a calculated move, with years of experience behind it. Their leader, Hassan Nasrallah, has long warned his members about the dangers of smartphones and how the Israeli intelligence has mastered the art of electronic surveillance, using mobile phones to track and spy on targets. For Hezbollah, sticking with mobile phones was a death wish. Meanwhile, pagers, on the other hand, seemed like a safer bet. Pagers were known as simple, low-tech gadgets used for sending simple messages. They were old-school toys in a new age where people were obsessed with high-tech devices, and that was what made them appealing. Hezbollah thought that the simplicity of these pagers made them harder to crack or track, and their confidence in them ironically led to their downfall. To Hezbollah, these devices were more than just tools to send messages, because it protected their movements from Israeli eyes by making them untraceable. The group had become good at playing the long game by staying untraceable and avoiding detection. They believed these pagers would help them outsmart the Israeli surveillance and tracking agency, also known as Mossad. But what they didn't count on was Mossad turning this very shield into a ticking time bomb. Pagers were originally manufactured by the Gold Apollo company based in Taiwan. But after the incident, the company claimed that the pagers that detonated in Lebanon were not made by them, rather by another firm called BAC Consulting based in Hungary. BAC Consulting was reported to have had the license to use the Gold Apollo branding, but the company officials denied any involvement in the manufacturing of the sabotage pagers used in the explosions. Think about it. Sabotaging the supply chain of pagers on such a major scale was no easy, small job. It must have taken months, if not years of careful planning. Mossad had to know Hezbollah's operations inside and out, and had to find the right entry point to corrupt the pager's supply chain. The agency also had to make sure the pagers were sent straight to Hezbollah without raising any alarms. It was a masterclass in patience, precision, and intelligence. So, how do you turn a pager into a bomb? It's actually simple. A pager already has most of what you need to make a bomb: a battery, a container, and a trigger. All Mossad had to do was add a small explosive and a detonator. When the time came, all they had to do was send a remote signal to trigger the explosives and cause massive explosions. The pagers became deadly weapons small enough to target individuals without blowing up buildings, because this wasn't really about mass destruction. It was about striking at the heart of Hezbollah's operations, which was its people. When the Israelis detonated the pagers in Hezbollah after successful infiltration, things quickly escalated. People had pagers in their pockets, in their hands or ears, sometimes clipped to their belts. And when these pagers were set off, some pagers exploded in their hands and faces, leaving horrific injuries, while others killed their users in an instant. Over 2,000 people were hurt, some wounded badly. The chaos in the streets was unimaginable. Smoke, fire, and panic as people tried to figure out what was happening around them and why it was happening. Hezbollah wasted no time pointing the finger at Israel and their leader Hassan Nasrallah, calling out the attack on his members as a criminal act. He promised to make Israel pay for what they had done to them. Tensions had already been on a high between Hezbollah and Israel, with both sides often caught in fierce battles along the border. However, this very attack was not the same. It was a calculated move that broke Hezbollah's sense of security. The group launched an investigation into how Mossad had pulled this off, and they had to face some difficult truths. Their supposedly secure communication network had been compromised, and their reliance on the old-school pagers had led to their downfall. The attack was a big wake-up call, and Hezbollah realized that in order to survive, they would need to rethink everything, from how they communicate to how they secure their operations. The attack wasn't something put together overnight. It had been in the works for a long time. Experts believe the pagers had been tampered with during production, meaning they were compromised long before they ever reached Hezbollah's hands. It's mind-boggling to think about the level of detail and patience this operation took. Mossad agents had to infiltrate pager production firms, sabotage the devices, and then sit back and wait for the right and perfect time to strike. One other thing that really made this attack stand out was its accuracy. Mossad didn't just plant explosives to create mass destruction. If they wanted that, then sending missiles or showering bombs straight from the sky would have done the job, but instead, they were strategic. The bombs were small, designed to harm or kill the pager's user without taking out the whole area. This was a message to Hezbollah and its leader. They could be taken out by the Israeli forces anytime, anywhere, and there's nothing Hezbollah could do about it. In the days that followed after the explosive incident, Hezbollah decided to retaliate with rocket strikes on Israel, and Israel again responded, only this time around with airstrikes. For a moment, it looked like things were going to spiral out of control, but the true fallout to the attack was more than just the primary casualties. The attack forced Hezbollah to rethink everything. They had to face the fact that their supposedly impenetrable communication methods had been penetrated, and any manufactured product coming into Hezbollah might have potentially been sabotaged. Even the thought of having double agents amongst them was never far from their minds, and this led to feelings of distrust amongst the Hezbollah members. They had to adapt quickly, knowing that Israel had the upper hand. The attack has also shown a new kind of warfare, one where even the most ordinary objects could become deadly weapons, and Mossad's operation was a perfect example because it wasn't about using brute force or heavy machinery used to infiltrate and destroy. Rather, it was about intelligence, strategy, and turning Hezbollah's own tools against themselves. The fight between these two sides wasn't just about them or what they stood for. The pager explosions opened up a lot of new information that sent shockwaves around the world. Other militant groups such as the Al-Qaeda were watching closely, taking notes, and likely reconsidering their own communication methods. Governments were also paying attention to what was happening between Hezbollah and Israel, realizing that even something as outdated as a pager could be weaponized in the right hands, and deadly sabotage could be found in the smallest of manufacturing businesses, leading to serious consequences. In Lebanon, the scars of the attack remain fresh till this very present. The streets are quieter, but the sounds and memories of that dreadful day still live on. The people there are trying hard to forget the trauma, get their lives back together, and Hezbollah is still scrambling to recover. Their day-to-day modern world has changed, completely different from what they used to know before. In today's world, technology also continues to develop and evolve due to the change in rules of battlefield warfare. Much more deadlier tools and devices are emerging alongside different terrible ways of using them in warfare. As nations seek tools of mass destruction in a bid to survive, the line between safety and danger becomes thinner by the day, and the lives of people in these nations across the world hang in the balance. For Hezbollah, the pager explosions were a brutal lesson which served them the cost of underestimating their enemy, while for Israel, it was a huge victory and a chance to show their adversaries that they are always watching, always waiting patiently for the right moment, and always ready to strike when the right moment comes. For the rest of the world, it was a sneak peek into the future of war and technology, where even the simplest things can become weapons of mass chaos and destruction fashioned against oneself. So as the dust in the air settles out, one thing is clear. This was just the beginning of something big to come in the future, and Hezbollah, Israel, and the world might just have to keep up by all means necessary, knowing that in this new era of warfare, there are no safe bets, not even pagers.